Thanks for tuning in to TellyCast. Before this week's show, I wanted to tell you about our exciting new event, the TellyCast Content Funding Festival. Taking place at the Ashworth Centre, Lincoln's Inn in London, on Tuesday, April 26th, the TellyCast Content Funding Festival has been created to bring producers and financiers together to explore the wide range of production funding options available today. The full-day event features panels with industry leaders exploring the new finance models, sponsored by Pipe, blockchain and NFTs, sponsored by M Content, co-production Evolved, sponsored by Quintus Studios, and brand-funded Programming 2.0, sponsored by Apex Content Ventures. Delegates will be able to schedule face-to-face meetings at the event with our sponsors, who are actively looking to partner with producers. And there's also lots of opportunities to meet with other attending financiers in regular networking breaks throughout the day, sponsored by Drive. Plus, each delegate will receive an exclusive detailed report packed with tips, advice and insight on today's content funding models, courtesy of event partners and industry intelligence experts K7 Media. Tickets are on sale now, starting at just $169.99 for producers and $199.99 for financiers. And for a limited time, TellyCast listeners can get an extra £20 off the ticket price by entering TellyCast Plus. That's TellyCast in capital letters and the plus symbol at checkout. But hurry, tickets are limited and they're available on tellycast.com/events. We hope to see you there.
TellyCast, the TV industry news review.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to TellyCast. We're back into the swing of live TV market events as the second biggest on the calendar, MIPTV, takes place once again next week in Cannes. So this week, we're previewing the event by catching up with a range of guests to get their take on their hopes and expectations for MIPTV 2022. Celine Payot Lehmann, international executive producer at French indie Pernel Media, joins me, along with David Kleeman, SVP of Global Trends at game studio Dubit, Arjan Pomper, MD ITV Studios Global Entertainment, and Anouk van Dijk, head of sales and co-productions at Quintus Studios. It's all coming up on this week's MIPTV Preview Telecast. My first guest on this week's MIPTV special is Celine Payot Lehmann, international executive producer at French indie Pernel Media. Hi, Celine. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Justin. Thank you.
Great to have you on the show finally. I know we talked about this at MIPCOM last year. I was trying to persuade you to come on the show, and I'm really delighted that you've agreed to come on now. How are things with you?
Well, look, we're fine. I mean, Pernel Media is growing, and so I'm the third producer to have joined the company, and it's really great. For me, it's a change of career, as I was a distributor for 18 years, international distributor at Z and then Arte. So it's my first experience as a producer, but it's really lots of fun.
Good. Well, that's what I was going to ask you, actually. You joined Pernel last summer, and you were at Arte and then 12 years as head of distribution at Z. So how's it going on the producer side? What's your experience? How are things different in your role now to those 17 years more on the sales side for broadcasters and distribution companies?
Well, there's many things that are new to me, but at the same time, it's kind of I would say a continuancy. Could you say that? Because I was already working on the international side, doing already co-productions and pre-sales, and working hand in hand with producers, a lot of independent producers who looked to me to help them find financing for their projects. So I was already working on the marketing side, doing the treatments and pitching to broadcasters, sometimes at sales level, but also at pre-sale and co-production levels. I'd often come with producers to the meeting and bring them on board. So there's on that side, it's quite similar. I have obviously less projects than distributors that would have, because at Arte, for example, we had about 120 new projects a year. So obviously you can't bring the same attention to a project each time. So right now I'm producing 3 documentaries, 3 series. I can put more attention to it and get more into the editorial side of things, which is really exciting because the new thing for me is getting to talk to the filmmakers, getting to talk to the authors, working on the development of new ideas. So I'm still speaking to lots of broadcasters internationally, trying to get a feel of the market, of what they're looking for, and then bringing it to our development team who will think about new ideas and projects. So that's really great. That's very exciting.
As a head of distribution and working in sales for all of that amount of time, I mean, you must have not only have great contacts when it comes to buyers all around the world, but also a really good indication of what these buyers are wanting. And obviously that's something you can feed in right at the beginning of the development process. Is that really how you're working with the team now? Just saying, okay, I know this buyer, I know that this is, I mean, things change obviously over years. The buyers are not looking for the same things year after year, but I guess there are certain bedrock of a certain slate that buyers are always wanting to fill their schedules with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm in touch with many broadcasters, and I know them quite well. Even if obviously the needs and the style of filming has changed over the years, I do have a pretty good feel of what buyers want and what works. And that helps a lot when I'm talking to the development team, telling them, no, this idea, I don't see it on the international market, or this is not going to work in China. This will definitely not work in the US. So we'd want to say it this way. That's definitely an asset to know the market. That's one of the reasons why I joined Pernel, because Pernel was already very international, producing even in direct for foreign broadcasters in the UK and the US. But with my experience in the distribution market, I can bring that kind of input on what works and what doesn't.
A story broke at MIPCOM last year about Vivendi's investment in Pernel. What are the changes that you're seeing on a daily basis as a result of that investment?
Well, I think, first of all, it brings financial stability to the company. Like we're more comfortable with investments, for example, in marketing, and we're going to redo our website, for example. We're investing more in communication, but also it gives us better access to all the Vivendi channels, which is the Canal Plus group. So we have commissions coming in from there, even though we're staying independent. We still have a choice over what we want to produce or not, but it gives us more money to invest, I would say. And also it gives us better access to the Canal Plus group, which is wonderful.
Now, I'm sure you've got a number of projects in development, as every great producer does have. And I'm sure there's lots that you can't talk about as well. But I gather you're moving more and more into natural history, as well as, a broad range of various factual formats that you've had in the past. But natural history seems to be a relatively new genre for Pernel.
Yes, well, actually, I worked a lot of natural history, especially when I was at Zed. So I know the market quite well. And Pernel had already produced a few natural history documentaries before I got here, one on the hamster, another on the vulture. I am developing and actually producing right now a series of natural history. One of them is called Butterfly's Superhero of Nature, for which we signed with Arte when I arrived in September. It was actually quite quick. They loved the idea. It's a 3-part series plus one blue chip one-off on the superpowers of the butterfly. So it's looking at how the butterfly, which is an animal that we deem as fragile and ephemeris and short-lived and very beautiful, is actually a superhero of nature. And there are over 100,000 different species of butterflies all around the world. And we're looking at how they manage to conquer the planet. So we're looking at 3 superpowers. One is the superpower of flight with their wings and the fact that they can travel for some thousands of kilometers. We're looking at one that's going from Northern Europe all the way to Africa and how it can do that. Another is the superpower of transformation, the fact that the butterfly is a metamorph. So it goes obviously from caterpillar to butterfly, but also butterflies some butterflies can transform during their life to hide from predators or to be able to survive some extreme conditions and things like that. And the third superpower is the superpower of resilience, the fact that it's extremely resistant to extreme weather conditions such as cold. Some butterflies can survive to minus 20 degrees. So we shot up in Sweden where there's a butterfly who has this kind of like anti-freeze gel in its body. So that's very exciting. And yes, since we're looking at the superpowers of the butterfly, we're going to be inspired visually by the pop culture model of the Marvel, of the superheroes. So giving our show a little bit of a very modern feel, a pop culture feel in the writing we use, and some pop culture influence in that.
All right, so it's really looking again at the natural history genre through a slightly different lens and presenting it for a younger market. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea is that since Arte is more and more on the web and on on digital, they want to reach a younger audience. So we're going to be doing something quite fun. The idea is to stay. I mean, we're staying in natural history, so it's serious and it's science. But in terms of style, we want to give it kind of a pop culture feel to attract a younger audience. Exactly.
I'm assuming you're going to be presenting this to international buyers at MIPTV as well in a week's time.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, actually, we signed a contract with Off the Fence, who's our distributor. So they're going to be looking at finding financing and finding buyers already at the market.
We're talking about MIPTV, and this is our MIPTV special. So MIPTV, it's the first market event for 3 years and the first in its new format, which will obviously be familiar overall to people who came to MIPCOM last year. What about your hopes and expectations for the market? What are you expecting to see down in Cannes?
Well, from MIPTV, I really want to meet as many buyers as possible. And it's so exciting to be back. I feel also people are extremely happy to be back in Cannes. And so many people were very willing to meet us and to hear about our new slate and our new development. So we're there to present what Pernel is producing right now, what the different genres we're doing. So like you said, we're developing natural history. So that's something that's quite new to Pernel, but also we have some ancient history and some science. And so really what we're looking to do is to meet partners for pre-sales and co-financing.
As you say, it's been a little while since people have come together. I mean, I was at Series Mania last week on the scripted side and really did shine through how people were delighted to be seeing each other again. And I'm sure that's going to carry through for MIPTV as well in Cannes. And it also looks like it's going to be sunny as well.
I do hope so, because we're having a party on Monday night at the beach. And there's many people who have answered that they wanted to come. And I also feel that people are just happy to be back at the beach, back in Cannes, and just really want to hear what's going on. We've been so, in a way, out of touch for many years, and we feel a real new energy, which is really delightful.
It almost feels like we've all been in hibernation, doesn't it, as well, with winter. Looking forward to seeing you down there, Celine. We're going to do a story of the week now. Tell us about the story of the week that's caught your eye in the past 7 days in the TV industry.
Well, I don't know if it's the past 7 days, but what I've noticed preparing for MIP is that it seems like co-productions are back. We're speaking to more and more producers and more broadcasters, actually, and broadcasters and obviously platforms who are interested in doing international co-productions in factual, which I feel is like a comeback, because for so many years that has been so hard. I mean, I feel that local money is missing. People are scrambling to find financing for their films, but broadcasters as well. Some broadcasters who were saying, we really want top CGI. We want to be able to compete with Netflix quality. But the only way to do that, we don't have enough money locally. So we're ready to share the risks, to share the money, to let go of some territories, and in order to be able to make the best film possible. So I've really been surprised at how open people are to that. And that's really, really great.
As a producer, I've always wondered this, is, when you've got, say, 3 different co-production partners, say you've got a Japanese broadcaster, a German broadcaster, and maybe a UK or a US broadcaster on board. How easy is it to keep everybody? Because obviously there are certain national traits, perhaps, or styles that are more prevalent in some territories than others. How easy or difficult is it to keep the core essence of a project on the rails while you have 3 different customers essentially wanting 3 different versions of your show?
Well, it's not easy, believe me, and it can take time. But then there are different definitions, I would say, of co-productions. There's one where you really share all the risks and the financing, and where both broadcasters will want their special versions with their own hosts or their own interviews. But that's not always the case. I mean, there's also the case where maybe there's less money invested from all parties, but initially, I would say, but the production goes faster and it takes less time. But it's not easy. I've worked on co-productions where you had an American partner, Nova, for example, who wanted a special, like they wanted their American scientists. And so we had to do a special shooting for them. But then you had the Japanese NHK, for example, who would want their own interviews. And then you'd have the French broadcaster. So it's not easy, but a good way around that is perhaps look for a little bit less money and let each broadcaster do their own final editing, because it's really hard for one producer to do 3 different versions. It's better to ask for a little bit less money and deliver not only the rough cuts, also all the shooting and all the raw material, and each party does their own version. That's one way to do it. That uncomplicates things.
Yeah, I can imagine that would cut down on a lot of toing and froing. That sounds like a very practical approach to that. Now it's time for your Hero of the Week and Get in the Bin nomination, Celine. So tell us, first of all, who your Hero of the Week is.
Oh, I don't know about Hero of the Week, but I heard about Will Smith slapping the face of Chris Rock last night, and at the Oscar ceremony. I haven't decided whether it's hero or bin, really, to be honest. But that was a very surprising move on his part. And
it was, yeah, it was shocking. Everybody woke up. We're recording this on Monday. Everybody woke up this morning and have you heard about Will Smith? And it's like, so everybody obviously seems to be going onto Twitter and looking for the clip, and it's like, it is quite stunning. And you're right, maybe Will Smith is one of the first nominations we ever had on the show who could fit into both.
That was quite a violent reaction on his part, but then, I haven't decided whether it was good or not.
Whether it was justified. I guess that debate's going to be raging. It's going to be going on. And the Academy put out a statement saying, obviously, they didn't condone violence, but, for them, I mean, everybody's talking about it, right? Everybody's talking about the Oscars again, which maybe for a few years they weren't. So maybe they're secretly quite pleased about it. Celine, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed having you on the show and chatting about what sounds like a market that we're all going to be at in a week's time, that, hopefully there's going to be a whole load of interesting co-productions and business getting done in the sun. And I look forward to seeing you at your party on Monday night. But also, I wish you all the very best and success with your butterfly project.
Well, thank you so much, Justin, for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing everybody at MIP.
My next guest on this week's MIPTV special show is David Kleeman, SVP of Global Trends at award-winning game studio Dubit, who create entertainment for the metaverse, kids, and esports. Welcome to the show, David. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you very much for having me.
And where are you speaking to us in the world from today?
I am coming to you from Washington, D.C., but Dubit is based in Leeds in England.
Ah, well, that's my hometown, you see, David. So that's it's not the reason that I invited you on, I promise you. But tell us about Dubit. Give us a bit of background for those who don't know you.
Sure, it's an interesting company in that it's 22 years old and has been building virtual worlds for kids since 1999. That's how the company got its start. So we've always been in immersive media for kids and building games, apps, VR, AR, all that, and always focused on children and teens. But we also have this very powerful research side that does a global trends study every 6 months in the US and the UK, 18 other countries that we survey roughly once a year to get a really deep idea into how young people are using media and technology. So turning to the metaverse for us has been a very natural turn because we understand how people use the media around them. We've seen how kids are kickstarting the metaverse. And we've got this great studio that has really grown, at least doubled in size in the last year, as we've taken on people who understand how to build for these platforms that we consider proto-metaverses.
How would you say things have changed over the last 18 months for a business like yours? I'm not an early adopter, but I made the plunge into getting a Quest 2 at Christmas for the family and kids, and I've been having a brilliant time with it. As developing for different platforms like virtual reality headset platforms, has that really changed your business in the last 18 months, or has it really been a gradual rise through, different phones and various different platforms for you as a business? Or are we seeing things accelerating for a business like yours?
Well, I'd probably come at it from the other side, which is what's changed in the last 18 months is how the audience interacts with media. That, as you note, a lot of people bought Quest headsets. People bought into subscriptions because during the pandemic, when you couldn't go anywhere, when experiential spending, going to the movies, going to the theme parks took a dive, people started spending in digital. So they were willing to buy game subscriptions. They were willing to say yes to their kids and teens when they asked for Robux or when they asked to buy a new game subscription or something like that. The way we talk about it sometimes is down in the corner went up on the server as young people couldn't be with their friends in physical space, they turned to digital space. That really opened the door for us to expand from building sort of more traditional games and apps into the places where people were spending their time, Roblox in particular. That's where we've probably been doing the most building in the last year, and we're starting to expand into other platforms like Core.
I also read on your website that you're about to launch, or you have launched, maybe you could bring us up to date on it, the first esports league in the metaverse. Tell us a bit about that.
For an old person like myself, I've been in children's media for 35 years. This is a wonderful thing to see coming because it's almost like Saturday morning TV. It's in the metaverse. So what we're doing is most esports is watching the professionals play. Watching the people who are the best at their game. What we're doing is working with brands to sponsor within a particular game on Roblox for now and expanding onto other platforms as well, to have a time-sensitive meetup. Come to this game at this time. We're all going to be playing together. We've got essentially a DJ or an influencer there who's going to keep things lively, keep things moving. And you can win Robux for being the best in a game, but you can also win Robux just for being there. So it's really like having a time-specific gathering place for children and young people to come together. And when I say young people, I think we're reaching up into the young 20s as well. Roblox has become a platform for a really wide age range, but it's everybody plays, everybody has a great time.
Let's just touch on Roblox for a second, because that's not something we've focused on up to this point on TellyCast, and we've seen it become a real phenomenon. Now, for those who listen to the show who aren't kids TV and kids industry experts, can you just give us an overview of what Roblox is? Because obviously everyone's heard about Fortnite and how successful Fortnite was and a lot of the real virtual events that were happening within Fortnite. Roblox seems to have come from nowhere. Tell us a little bit about it and why it's so popular.
It's one of the most interesting 15-year overnight successes you'll find. That Roblox has been around for a very long time, but it really was only in around 2019 that it started to hit its stride and become the kind of behemoth that it is today. It's best to think of Roblox as the YouTube of games, that it is not a game, it is millions of games. And like YouTube, some of them are professionally made. A lot of them are made by by users on the platform. There are almost 2,000 Lego games on Roblox, none of them created by Lego. In the first month after Squid Games debuted on Netflix, there were 100,000 Squid Game games on Roblox. And Netflix has said, that's great. This is, usually IP owners protect their IP and don't want anyone touching it. And in this case, Netflix has said, this is wonderful. We are seeing how our fans want to interact with our brands. Lego, the same. We're going to watch and make sure that it's not outside the bounds of our brand. We don't want anyone doing something that we wouldn't approve of. But we also get this amazing insight into how people want to play in the digital world with Lego. So there are millions of games out there. You can play one game, you can play hundreds of games, you can make a game, you can just hang out with your friends if you don't want to play a game. There are waiting rooms throughout Roblox where you can just go hang out. It's got an economy with Robux. Robux has now become the number one thing kids spend their pocket money on. So it is a proto-metaverse in that you can do all these different things on a single platform.
Do you need a headset to access Roblox?
Nope, not at all.
Some of our listeners will be saying, what a stupid question. We're all over Roblox, but, perhaps others aren't. So for me, I haven't experienced it. But what I will do after this show, I'll go and have a look and maybe put a link to Roblox in the episode description so everyone can go and have their own go on there.
Have a play.
Yeah, exactly. So you're giving a presentation, aren't you? We're talking about MIPTV. You're going to be at MIPTV and you're giving a presentation called What Role Will the Metaverse and NFTs Play in the Future of the Content Industry? This is a perfect subject to discuss because obviously this has really become front of mind, I think, for everybody. And it's great that MIPTV is really focusing on these future-facing trends and issues. Without giving us any spoilers, can you give us a few teasers on what attendees to your presentation will learn?
Well, I think as you've said, a lot of people are new to the metaverse, are new to this idea, and they are reading about it everywhere. And if there are 100 people talking about the metaverse, there are 110 different definitions of what it's going to be. The one spoiler I will give you is it's not here yet. And I'm going to start the talk by saying it's not here yet. And what that means is that we have the opportunity to shape the metaverse in the way that we want it to become. We don't have to take what we get. We can really build it to be what we envision for it. So I always figure if I talk about it in the ways that it can be a wonderful space for young people, then that's going to put in people's minds how to build that wonderful space for young people, as opposed to it becoming just a commercial marketing space or just only run by Meta or the biggest companies. But because there are so many different ways of approaching it, I think there's a range of feelings in the television industry of, is this something I should be scared of? Is this something I should be leaping in with both feet? How do I approach this? We saw exactly the same thing when the internet came along, is people saying, television people saying, oh, is this going to replace me? Is this an opportunity for me? So my talk will really be around helping youth television brands understand what the metaverse is all about, why we see kids and youth as the natural audience for it and the ones who are really helping to shape it right now, and then how to think about your brand as a television IP owner in the metaverse, where it can fit in, and the idea that you don't have to be Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Meta-sized brand in order to play in the metaverse. We are working with very big and very small brands to do short-term activations, to do event sponsorship, live event sponsorship, to build a game that you want to stay there for a long time, or to build something that you just want to kind of intrigue people about your brand and then come around and find it on television.
You mentioned something earlier on. You said that Roblox was the proto-metaverse. What did you mean by that?
The metaverse really isn't here yet in its complete state. Roblox has many of the elements that a metaverse will have. You can do a lot of different things. It lowers friction barriers for its users to moving around, to moving from place to place, to doing different kinds of activities. It's got a functioning economy within it. You can play, you can build. It's a creative platform as well as a consuming platform. But in the end, it's just Roblox. It is within its own world. What we're seeing as we move forward to the actual metaverse is connections among different worlds and platforms. It makes no sense to a young person why, if I buy Premier League outfit in Minecraft or I can't wear it into Roblox. I can't take it with me into Fortnite. That just makes no sense to a kid. What we see as the actual metaverse is lowering those barriers to taking the things that you own from place to place. And that's really where the blockchain comes in, that if I buy something in Roblox, it's documented that I bought it there, and that will help me take it into other platforms. We see young people naturally as creators of content right now. And so the true metaverse will be a place where pretty much anyone, I have a slide in my talk that's who are the people in your metaverse? It's a play on an old Sesame Street song. And the answer is it's pretty much everyone, from the lemonade stand, the kid who's got a really interesting idea and puts it out there, to the strip mall, the small business, the shopping mall, the big business, all the way up to the big tech companies. There's going to be space for everyone in there.
I think maybe everybody thinks about the metaverse and thinking about, Meta and, some of these huge brands. We've seen media deals done for virtual sneaker companies, being bought up by Nike and Disney, getting into NFTs and all of this. But in terms of an unscripted producer, so if they're a documentary producer who's making loads of fantastic shows now for broadcasters all around the world in the unscripted space, why should they come along to your presentation? What would be in it for them? How can you open their eyes to the opportunity that the metaverse may open up for them?
I'm gonna make a pandemic analogy to it, which is one of the things we saw families doing together was watching the unscripted shows, the competitions in particular, and turning them into competitions for themselves. I know that it's going to be about dancing. I know that I've got my favorite. I want to see how my favorite does tonight. My mother's favorite is different from my favorite, so we turn it into a little competition. As an unscripted producer, you could use the metaverse to allow people to immerse themselves in that world, to actually, dance on the virtual set, to buy the T-shirt from their favorite dancer, to become part of the story. This is something that we're seeing emerge really in young audiences today, not just kids, but young adults as well, is that when they are fans of something, they really want to become part of it. They want to express their fandom. They want to feel like they're being listened to as well. So this concept I talked about of Netflix saying it's great that people are playing with Squid Game because they are showing us what the fan of this series wants it to be like. And we have the choice at that point to accept that and build it into the future video series, television series, or to say, no, that's not quite right, but we can accommodate it in these other kinds of spaces. Dubit calls that fanatomy, the anatomy of a fan, and how you take someone who may be a casual fan, and by listening to them, by responding to them, even if you don't accept all their ideas, just showing them that there's somebody home, you can really deepen their fandom.
The last question I've got, because as I say, I don't want to dig too deeply into your presentation at this point and spoil it for anybody, but how should one envisage the metaverse, if you like? Because, there is an assumption, it was a question I asked earlier on about, do you need a Meta Quest headset to access the metaverse? Are we talking about a series of online worlds that are all connected and you can come in with a headset, but equally I'm at home with my laptop and I can access various different parts of the metaverse from where I am? How should one picture this visually, if you like?
That's exactly it. I think people have two different imaginations about the metaverse right now. One is that it's all virtual reality and you need a headset, and that's not the case. The other is that it's all about games, and that's not the case. That it will really be about all the different things that we want to do in digital space, whether it's shopping, learning, working, and how those are best accommodated in immersive ways. Even beyond that, I envision parts of the metaverse where you'll take your smartphone out and use augmented reality. So you'll be looking at the physical world around you, but you'll be immersing yourself in new layers of that physical world, and that will feed into the metaverse. As I say, I may buy a Premier League jersey inside Roblox, but maybe I can also have the physical jersey delivered to me at home so that my avatar and myself can be identically dressed. So it really is across all the different platforms that we use right now, and some that will emerge, and engaging the physical world as well.
David, it's going to be fascinating to see your presentation. Where and when is it?
It is on the 4th at 10:30 to 11:30, and I'm blanking on the room right now. But
So it's basically on the Monday morning at 10:30. We'll put a link into the MIPTV website as well, where people can go and find out exactly where it is.
Perfect.
David, thank you so much for joining us on TellyCast. I look forward to seeing you in Cannes. Maybe we can get a glass of cold rosé at some point.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to that.
My next guest on this week's MIPTV special preview show is Arjan Pomper, MD of ITV Studios Global Entertainment. Welcome to the show, Arjan. How are you?
Thanks, Justin. I'm great. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
We're all scrabbling to get the last minute things done before we all board our planes or our trains towards Cannes, down to MIPTV. How are things with you? How are you finding things at ITV Studios at the moment? Are you finding business building and intensifying as we move further into the year?
Yeah, well, just like you said, I mean, people are just sort of are keen to go to the markets again. We felt something like that already at the London screenings, but it's exactly the same now with the MIP. Some last minute bookings, some internally from colleagues saying, I really want to go because I heard clients going, and clients saying, I heard that you are going, so I'll be going as well. So everyone is excited. So that's good. We've been locked up for about 2 years, and well, this is the result of it. So that's good.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's something that I felt actually being at Series Mania last week, is that it felt like the cork had come out the bottle a little bit. Everybody was, so delighted to not only to, do the face-to-face meetings again, but, just go for a beer at the end of the day and catch up. It was really sort of lovely feeling. So you're getting the sense that there's a bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, happening right now. People are starting to go, well, if you're going, I'm going to go.
Yeah, exactly. We had a little bit of that already in October at the MIPCom. And the good thing is that people just now take time to just catch up with everyone. So where we normally have the 30 minutes meetings back to back, 16 meetings in a row, people now just take time for lunch and a drink. And you'll be surprised if a meeting is shorter than 60 minutes at this moment. So that's really good. And the other result is that at the moment that, I had a kind of an interview some time ago, and I said, my expectation is that there will be a kind of an explosion of creativity briefly after the lockdowns that we've all been suffering from. And that's actually what's happening. So if you look at the pipeline that we have at this moment, it is really, really strong. So we're happy to go to the MIP, and we had them already launched at London screenings, but we'll continue with that during the MIP with a couple of really very strong formats. Yeah,
that's actually something that we were debating it back in the depths of lockdown. I can't even remember how long ago it was, but we were talking to Gertz Leasis and various people in the industry about the way this whole thing would shake out. Once the pandemic is gone, how would it affect format development and TV show development and creativity, because of the very unusual ways that TV was actually being produced by necessity. You're seeing many more creative kind of formats that were perhaps born out of necessity?
No, not necessity. I mean, the creativity really needs interaction. I think that creativity is being stimulated by people being in the same room, having conversations. It is like, I have this idea, and then the other one tops it with another idea, and eventually you have brilliant formats. And if we just combine it with the learnings that we had from producing during lockdown and with the COVID circumstances, which is without audience, without any people getting in or out, so that we should produce on the local, let's say, locally under very condensed circumstances. These are the learnings that we took from this period. And if we look at the new formats that we have, so for instance, we have launched during different format festival, Rat in the Kitchen, for instance. That's a studio format without audience. So Rat in the Kitchen is a really fantastic format that has a high level of whodunit or suspense, because there will be a couple of cooks in the combination of professional cooks and amateur cooks. They're competing for the best dish, and one of them is the saboteur, and they need to find out who it is. So this one person tries to mess up the dishes that the other ones are making without them finding out who it is. So there's a big risk in that. It is a fantastic format. The persons who created it are not the lightest either. So it's created by ITV America together with Think Factory and Possessed. And Adam Reed and Glenn Hugill are the persons behind it. So that's a fantastic format. It's already been commissioned.
That sounds interesting. Cooking sabotage show.
Yeah,
okay, well, that's exciting. Obviously, that's a priority, or one of the priorities for you in terms of sales at the market. What about acquisitions? I mean, you looking to acquire content at a market such as MIPTV, or is it purely about sales for you?
Well, we're always on the lookout for new formats. So we're always looking for new things that we can acquire. If there are good ideas, we are absolutely keen to participate in that and help them, because we have a fantastic distribution group here. Mm-hmm. GE is specialized in the distribution of the formats. At the moment that we can partner up with someone, that would be great. So acquisitions, yes, of course, always. We're always on the lookout for new big things. We're keen to work together with others.
Okay. So if there are any producers considering heading out to Cannes and just maybe checking their EasyJet flights from wherever they are at the moment, it's still worth them getting in touch with one of your colleagues. Is that right, to see if they've got any space in their diary? Definitely.
They should always try to reach out to us. And at the moment there is any opportunity to work together, we will absolutely dive into that. We're keen to look at that, yeah.
Talking about meetings and diaries then, what are your expectations of the week in Cannes? Are you trying to spend an hour with people and a little bit more time and have it a bit more in-depth and relaxed meeting schedule? Or are you deluged having the 16 half-hour meetings in a day?
No, it is indeed a little bit more in-depth. So I think that if we look at the general atmosphere of the market, we definitely see that everyone is a little bit more relaxed, not such a tight agenda. Some of the distributors are not even coming, so that gives a lot of room for the participants. It is much more relaxed than it normally would be. So it is indeed coffees, lunch, meetings, without the pressure that we normally feel. So I'm really looking forward to this market.
Yeah, me too. And I'm guessing a lot of financial controllers in businesses across the country are steeling themselves for those receipts that are coming through in a week's time. This is the first MIPTV for 3 years, as I said at the top of the show, and the first in its new format. Now, you mentioned MIPCOM. You were obviously at MIPCOM in October. There's a new format, redesigned to be business efficient, I think is in the words of Lucy Smith. As we're coming out of lockdown, and we've seen various big media companies like ITV creating their own online events and physical events when we come to London screenings, how do you see the changing importance and the role of markets in the years ahead? How do you think things have changed and will change going forward?
London screenings already started years ago, and we can't deny the power of it. It gains in importance, but the big interruption came from COVID, obviously, and COVID has learned us what the power is of digital events. I think we'll get a sort of new balance between digital events, live events. And let's be honest, I mean, MIP will always be very, very important for us. It's an important partner for us. It is an important market. MIPCOM is the biggest market in the world. We can't live without MIP. Well, we have to just sort of see what the results of this market, how people will perceive it and how they feel. I mean, For us, as said, it is important to get our formats across. One of the other formats that we want to introduce this market is My Mom, Your Dad, which is a really fantastic format that is already been on HBO Max in the US. It is about single parents looking for love with real life dating stories. So they go into your house, not like Love Island. Love Island is really with young people. And this is a little bit more with the older skewed people, single parents, as said. And they are looking for love as well. So they're put in a house. What they don't know is that in another house, in a neighboring house, their children are looking at what they're doing. So that gives a really interesting situation because they witness all the conversations and all the situations in the other house where their parents are. And eventually they can even influence certain things. So that's a fantastic format, really beautiful. And you can only tell this story at the moment that you have a good moment to interact with your clients. That's why we need MIP. That's why we need digital events. That's why we need the big events, just to have this interaction and talk about Rat in the Kitchen, talk about My Mom, Your Dad. And even if you look at The Voice, that is, as we call it, the gift that keeps on giving, it is the strongest format in the world. And we now have a new spin-off with The Voice Generations. It is highly emotional. We have already produced it in Australia and Lithuania. It scored excellently, so that's really fantastic. We're talking about those kind of formats, Rat in the Kitchen, My Mom, Your Dad, The Voice Generations. You have to have a conversation with them. You can't just pick up the phone and just call them, okay, you want to have it. They have to see it, they have to feel it, and hear the story behind it. Because behind every format or every new idea, there's a story. And that is something that is specifically, if you talk about My Mom, Your Dad, and The Voice Generations, it is about emotion as well. So that is something you can only get across when you have a personal conversation with your clients. Therefore, MIP will always be very important. And other markets might gain some importance as well, but MIP will always be there, if you ask me.
For a big business like yours, Arjan, how does it work when you come to a market such as MIPTV or indeed involvement in London screenings? Do you have a couple of months after or a certain amount of time after a market? Do you all get together and look at the numbers and make a call as to was it successful or not? Is it simple as cut and dried as that? Okay, there was a real strong business case for us going next year, or is it more of a feeling that you have after the market? You've done some good sales, but you've also built those relationships up. How do you quantify the value? Because obviously, bringing staff from all over the world is often quite an expensive endeavor. How do you define the return on investment?
I love this question. And it's almost impossible to answer because this is the kind of conversation that we always have with the finance directors in the companies everywhere. I would love to track everything that we do. We can sort of be very secretive about it, but we are there to sell our formats, right? So at the moment that we have our sale or let's say have a market, I would like to track what actually has been the result. However, sometimes I have a conversation, or one of our salespeople has a conversation let's say in October, which only results into a sale 8 or 9 months later. That's easily possible because then someone is waiting for it, or somebody said, actually, to be very honest, Gert, you just mentioned Gert's license, and he was in India the other week, and they were talking about a format that premiered about 2 years ago. And so if the client starts about it 2 years later, can you still relate it to the market where it was presented back then? I don't know. But if we're talking with the finance directors, they would say, okay, how much does it cost to be on the market? How many leads did it bring? How many eventual sales did we have? So what is the return? And that is an impossible question to answer. We simply can't, because it is, as said, we have to bring the story across. And sometimes it resonates. Sometimes it doesn't resonate as well. Or a client says, I love the story, but not now, and comes back to us 1 year later. So it is very, very difficult. I'd like to have the hard numbers on it, but that's simply impossible.
That's the difference between, I suppose, physical and digital. Right there, isn't it? That's it's yes, you can track lots of things on a website and clicks and all of that stuff, but actually, what we're talking about is that human connection, and as you said, the value of being able to present your ideas one-to-one. Oh, one last question for you. So where are you going to be situated? Because we're used to seeing your container building outside the Palais. Are you going to be actually inside this time? Where will people be able to locate you down in the Palais?
On my phone. And so we're in and out the Palais. So we have definitely we do have access. We have many appointments already that are in the agenda, but there is always room for a last minute appointment. So if anyone wants to reach me, they can reach me by email or by phone. Just reach out to me and we'll find time. That's the beauty of this times market. That we can do. We're just simply flexible. We have to be flexible. We are flexible. Most of the time it results in good conversations and not restricted by the clock, so to say.
Very good. That's the way it should be, isn't it, really? Okay, Ida, thank you so much for coming on. Great to have a quick chat as the clock's ticking towards our flights to Cannes. So I'll maybe stop by and say hello at some point on the stand. We'll have the return of Geertz Leesis, who was a regular contributor right at the beginning of TellyCast 2 years ago. So it'd be great to have him on the show and have a chat, see how he's doing.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show. It was a pleasure. Hopefully see you in Cannes this time.
My final guest on this week's MIPTV Preview Show is Head of Sales and Co-Productions at Quintus Studios, Anouk van Dijk. Anouk, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I was just saying to Arjan that there seems to be getting more and more work coming in. It's being compressing into a smaller and smaller amount of time before we all, before I leave. I actually fly on Friday to Cannes for MIPTV. How are you finding your run-up and your preparations for the market? Because you're a regular, aren't you, at MIPTV?
I am by now. Yeah, I think I am. I was there in October as well. The running up is going really well. A full schedule. I think we're ready. We had our last team meetings yesterday to prep. Ready to go. Almost. Okay. I saw that you've announced your MIPTV slate. So that's obviously always an exciting thing to do. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what your priorities are when it comes to the week in Cannes or the few days in Cannes? What are your biggest hopes in terms of your shows that you're taking to the market? I have two heads, so to say. I'm working on the finished sales content. And in that case, we have a few new shows, a new series of one of the productions that we do is Behind Bars. The third series is almost ready, and we're focusing on that one. But also we take two titles from the new German channel Bild to the market. And this is crime series coming from Germany, focusing on international cases. So that is a very interesting series, My Biggest Case. And then we have the Quintus Originals, which is, I think, our co-production side is the main focus at the moment. The title that was just announced today in C21 is Crisis in Cocaine Valley. It's a co-production for FD channel, focusing on the Peruvian Andes, and which is named after, like, the Cocaine Valley. It's named after, because of the whole society basically being dependent on the cocaine production, which is an interesting title to see how that is working, how they fight crimes and at the same time try to save their economy. And we're working on a really interesting series with Middle Child, a UK producer, a new partner from us, The World's Most Dangerous Rescues. We are working on that. And there's a few more series that come from our co-pro club that we had last month. And we're following up on those projects that we've pitched to many broadcasters and see if we can get those titles into production.
You say the Quintus Co-Pro Club, and we had Gerrit coming on a few months ago, and he was talking to us about Quintus Originals. Quintus is essentially a next-generation distributor and channel owner, but also co-production partner. Tell us about this co-production club and how that works.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, we are a little bit of a next generation, and that has to do with the fact that our AVOD channels are doing really well, and we can now start to also commission shows for our channel, which makes us a co-production partners with two hats on. we acquire content, commission content for our own channel, and at the same time, we will be the distributor for the international sales. So we can actually financially, put in more than we could before when it was only the distribution side of things. So the CoPro Club was 1 week of screening for everyone that we invited. They had a week to see 12 of our projects, and some were already in the pre-sale phase, some were still much more in the development phase. And out of the 12 projects, 4 productions are actually in production. We will have something finished, I would say, this summer, which we announced. So Crisis in Cocaine Valley is one of them. The World's Most Dangerous Rescues is one of them. But there is also a couple of projects that we discussed afterwards, after receiving the feedback from broadcasters coming in saying, we are really interested in this. We talk with them and the production company, seeing what it is they would really like. How can we make this work within the budgets that we have? And what is the next steps? So that's also conversations that we will be having at MIP.
And so the way that the CoPro Club works is essentially you get together with the producer and interested buyers and networks, etc., and streamers, and they all come together on a Zoom type call, because you've got a screening hub, haven't you? There's a
Yes.
screening hub that essentially is the hub for that. So what's the idea, the aim of the CoPro Club essentially?
The aim is to speed up the process a little bit, to find partners that are interested in projects, and also to get them together in one, those who are interested coming from different territories. So a broadcaster in the UK together with one in Southern Europe and in Germany. And when all 3 of them are interested in a pre-sale or in a co-production, to get them into one room to see how we can find the sweet spot and get the title into production quite quickly. And then the production company is good to go to get it greenlit, and we can speed up the process a little bit. And also for us to find partners, because we are a commissioner, but we cannot be the commissioner for 100% yet for most of the shows. So we are looking for partners to commission with us or to co-produce with us.
So actually, in the way that you're a hybrid business as a broadcaster, but also a distribution business and a co-production partner, the way that you're creating co-productions is also hybrid in a way, in terms of getting people together in a digital hub. But presumably you're also meeting up with some of those partners at MIPTV. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, we are.
And so when it comes to the value, and this is something that I just was speaking to Arjan from ITV Studios about, the value of MIPTV and a market such as MIPTV to a big media group and how they quantify the value of it. For a business like yours, which is at the cutting edge of new models in the industry, what are your expectations this week, first of all? What are your diaries looking like? And how will the new MIPTV format work for you?
I'm really looking forward to it. It's always different and nicer to meet in person. It gives you the chance to chat about more than the projects alone and how you can build relationships better. The schedules, I think we're going with 4 people. And this is the first time Quintus Studios is going with so many of us. And all of us have really full schedules. So I think it's a really good chance to really get a good feeling of what people are all looking for, what's going on, to meet new clients or new partners. And also for us, we're still a small company. It's a very good chance to introduce ourselves to people that we haven't worked with before, especially when at the moment we're growing the catalog, we're growing the type of content that we're producing and also acquiring. So people that may have heard about us before and know us from the content that we used to do, which is also a lot of engineering, then now also know that we're going much more into crime and to survival type of titles, that we have a broader interest in different sides. And that is also something you can really expose at MIP.
you can, I suppose, more effectively give people a background of where you've come from and where you're actually going as a business in a face-to-face meeting. Yeah. Okay. Anouk, thank you so much for joining me. When do you fly down to Cannes? When do you get into town?
I will arrive on Sunday, just in time for the TellyCast drinks, I think.
And that's an excellent plug, Anouk. Thank you. Yeah, well, everybody who's listening, we're having a drinks event, which is starting to become a bit of a regular thing. It's a meetup, essentially, getting everybody together for a beer or two before the market starts. And that's at 6:00 at Brown Sugar, just behind the Grand on Sunday night. We'll see you all there. And I'll see you there, Anouk.
I'll see you there. Absolutely. Yes.
Have a good last few days of crazy last-minute preparation.
Thank you. I'll need it.
All the best.
Thanks for having me.
All right, not at all. We'll see you in Cannes, Anouk.
See you in Cannes. Thank you.
Well, that's about it for this week's MIPTV Preview Show. There's only a few days left to grab early bird tickets for the TellyCast Content Funding Festival in London on April 26th. Just head to tellycast.com/events to buy tickets. They start at just $169.99 for producers and $199.99 for financiers. And for a limited time, TellyCast listeners can get an extra £20 off the ticket price by entering TellyCast Plus, that's TellyCast in capital letters and the plus symbol, at checkout. And if you're in Cannes for MIPTV next week, join us on Sunday from 6 p.m. for the TellyCast MIPTV meetup at Brown Sugar, just behind the Grand Hotel. It's free to attend, but you need to RSVP. You can also do that at tellycast.com/events. We hope to see you there. TellyCast was edited by Ian Chambers and recorded in London. Until next week's show from Cannes, as always, stay safe.